Politics is, at least in some ways, it's a blood sport. And remember, the word campaign prior to elections was a military term. A campaign was about a war. And we have elections so that we don't have to have wars, right? The peaceful transition of government is one of the hallmarks of the franchise, the vote, and arguably one of the most important aspects. Not the most, because if a majority votes to do something that's evil or wicked, then the majority is wrong, and those in the minority have a right to stand against them, even using force if necessary. But I digress. For those of you who say, what do you mean? Wait, well, what if you're in a community and 90% of the people vote to take your home and make you a slave? I mean, we did have a democratic process here in America where we had slaves. The slaves had the right to violently resist their slave owners and to try to become free. All right, a blood sport. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio went after Donald Trump like I have. If you add up all the other 9 debates, all right, this was the 10th debate. If you add up all the other 9 debates, the one Trump wasn't there, and you add up all the shots and the brutality and the pummeling, this one was worse than all the other ones combined. Watch this exchange between Cruz and Trump to see what I'm talking about.
In 2013, when I was leading the fight against the Gang of Eight amnesty bill, where was Donald? He was firing Dennis Rodman on Celebrity Apprentice. And indeed, if you look at the Gang of Eight, one individual on this stage broke his promise to the men and women who elected him and wrote the amnesty bill. But Donald funded the Gang of Eight.
I can only say this, and I've said it loud and clear, and I've said it for years. And many of these people are sitting right in the audience right now, your lobbyists and your special interests and your donors, because the audience is packed with them, and they're packed with you. I've had an amazing relationship with politicians, both Democrat, Republican, because I was a businessman. As one magazine said, he's a world-class businessman. He was friendly with everybody. I got along with everybody. You get along with nobody. You don't have one Republican. You don't have one Republican senator, and you work with them every day of your life, although you skipped a lot of time. These are minor details. But you don't have one Republican senator backing you, not one. You don't have the endorsement of one Republican senator, and you work with these people.
Senator Cruz.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You should be ashamed. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Donald Trump is his ability to dial things back and dial them up really quickly. I'm a public speaker. I've spoken hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times in churches and in colleges and various settings, political gatherings. And for Trump to be able to hold on when he needs to be quiet, make the point, and then when he needs to fight fire with fire, blowtorch to blowtorch, it's impressive. And I really thought that Cruz was going to draw some serious blood when this exchange started, mocking him about, firing Dennis Rodman and that you funded the members of the Gang of Eight. Trump quiets down and says, look, I've said it repeatedly, I get along with everyone. It was my job as a businessman. I gave money to Republicans, I gave money to Democrats, and the voter listening says, I get it. And the voter says, and guess what Trump is not doing? He's not taking money from any special interests. No one. That has such magnetism. Again, it's strictly on the economic side. I feel like I need to say every single segment, there is a hierarchy. The number one challenge, the number one crisis, the number one evil in this country is the killing of babies. The second is marriage, okay? That is not going to change with me, your host. But we still have to analyze why evangelicals are overwhelmingly going for Donald Trump, not their fellow evangelical, Ted Cruz. It's because of Trump's leadership skills. It's because of his poise. It's because of his intensity when he needs to be intense. And he turned that, he did a jiu-jitsu rhetorical move on Ted Cruz so fast, saying, you don't get along with anybody. You could, for the first time, you could actually see just a whisker of Cruz's face flinch. Because that's a tough shot. When you've got no Republican senator in the entire Senate where Ted Cruz works, who is endorsing Ted Cruz. Now, if I were Ted Cruz, I would turn that right back around and say, yeah, I know that they're not endorsing me because I am not part of the establishment. The problem is he needs too many of them. He needs their help. So Cruz is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And Donald Trump, who Cruz reached out from behind that rock and hard place and popped Trump in the mouth, and Trump just jumped out and started pummeling down in the hole. I'll be right back. All right, Trump was just like beating on him. Cruz, that was a bad mistake. All right.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas referred to John Locke twice in his dissent in the Obergefell decision. John Locke is referred to as the philosopher of American liberty. He was a genius, and he not only believed in natural law, but he believed in revealed law, the Word of God, the law of God. And he is one of the two most influential philosophers on the founders of this republic. We are offering you this book, and I'm going to give you my book as well, The Sword. The Sword, the subtitle is The Blessing of Righteous Government and the Overthrow of Tyrants. It looks at what is the legitimate purpose of government and when is it our right to overthrow government like they did with the Declaration of Independence. We will send you these two books if you simply pay for the shipping and handling, $8, and then give whatever else you want. And by the way, the $8 doesn't cover our cost, but if that's all you can afford, we'll send them to you for the $8. God bless you.